All right, welcome everyone to the debut episode of the Carnism Debunked podcast, bringing you the juiciest, most thought-provoking, eye-opening topics from inside and outside the animal rights movement. I'm your host, George Martin, and my guest today is the legendary Sonia Sae. And what better way to kick off this podcast than by having her on the show? So to fill you in on today's guest, Sonia came to international media attention recently over concerns of the well-being of Jumanji, the Fennec Fox in her care. Sonia is also the singer of Dream, which, as far as I'm aware, is the only song with an animal liberation message on Vivo. So go check that out if you haven't done already. I'll leave a link in the YouTube and the Facebook description. So welcome to the show, Sonia. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Awesome. So I guess I'll put it over to you. Like, say your story. What happened with Jumanji? Tell us everything from start to finish, everything you went through, and just tell us what happened basically.
Okay, so it all started in 2018 when a girl took the pictures of my Instagram from an allergy that Jumanji has that they were from 2015, and she took those pictures, she took another ones, and she made up a story on her Facebook page, basically saying that he was dying on a vegan diet. That those pictures of 2015 were pictures from now, and that he used to look like the other pictures, and that he was lethargic, he couldn't move, blah blah blah. Some sort of sensationalist story to, I guess, get likes, or to, I don't know, for people to hate me. And this story started to go viral, and people started to share it first on Twitter, then on YouTube they started making videos, and after that they, like, clickbait media started sharing it, and then other more serious media started sharing it as well without even checking, not even for 5 minutes, if the story was true.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then I with all that attention, I started getting a lot of death threats and disturbing comments. And also I had a change.org page
Wow.
with I don't know how many thousands of signatures for the police to take away my fox and all of that. Yeah, a little bit crazy.
So how did you acquire Jumanji? How did you? Because one of the people asking on the Facebook post asked, why is it that Sonia has Jumanji in her care? So a Fennec Fox. Describe what a Fennec Fox is first, and then say how you acquired him.
Okay, so a Fennec Fox is a type of canid that is the smallest one in the world. He's smaller than a Chihuahua, and in the wild they would naturally live in the desert, in the region of the Sahara Desert. But he's also considered an exotic pet, and some people have Fennec foxes as pets, just like some people have snakes or tarantulas, or different species of exotic pets.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry.
And they're omnivores, right?
Yes,
Because a lot
Fennec
of people
foxes.
think they're carnivores, don't they?
Yeah. Usually, like, the people who come as you know, upset with the story and all that, they usually repeat the thing of that they are carnivores, and that they eat 90% of animals in the wild, but they don't consider that in the wild.
Yeah.
They live in the desert. There's not a lot of other options rather than that. So despite of that, of course they need high amounts of taurine and all of that, but they are omnivores.
Yeah. And so tell us how did you actually get Jumanji? How did
Yeah.
Jumanji come to be in your house basically?
So the man who had him, I'm gonna explain like a little bit background. I'm gonna explain like not short. I'm gonna
That's cool. Yeah, go on.
do the long thing. um, so the man who had him, he wasn't a breeder at all, and he was a man that had his parents, but he bought his like Jumanji's parents to a breeder, so they were born in captivity too, and you know, like just like many other people who have like dogs or cats, he had the couple, and the couple had a baby. He actually, like, the couple actually had two babies, and he wanted to keep them, but the father of Jumanji killed the other baby, and he was very aggressive towards the babies. I guess because of he was jealous that the mother would pay attention to the babies instead of him.
And this is in Spain. Can I just clarify this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. This is in Spain. And so the man obviously didn't want the other baby to die. And he wanted to find someone who would take care of the baby. And we had a friend in common, and that friend told him, oh, I know a person who is like, she likes animals a lot. She is very outspoken. She always defends them, and I think that she would take well care of him. So this friend puts us in contact, and we agreed to meet, and you know, I went to his house, and I ended up adopting Jumanji. In fact, I had second thoughts. I remember when I went, because when I went there, I saw that the mother really liked the baby a lot, you know, of course, because it's a mother who has a strong bond with their children. And at first I didn't want to adopt him because, you know, I started crying because I felt super bad. Because when you think about it, you know, you're separating a mother from her child.
Yeah.
And the man said, you know, I need to rehome him, otherwise he's gonna be killed. And so I ended up adopting him. But that also made me think, you know, about the pet trade in general, and just like with dogs and any other non-human animal, that we, you know, separate them from their families.
Absolutely. So it was, I guess it was one of these kind of lesser of two evils kind of cases, right? When we
Yeah.
adopt an animal that should not be in a domesticated animal in the first place. Well, there shouldn't be such thing as a domesticated animal in the first place. But it's taking that ethical decision of what do we do with those animals who have already been bred into care. And I just want to ask, obviously most of the listeners will be very interested to know, how is Jumanji? Like what? Yeah, tell us how he is these days. How is his health?
His health, good, like always. He still has the allergy, which is something that sometimes people don't like miss about it. He has it better though, because once we identified the problem, we could come up with a solution.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not as bad as those pictures, but he's like in summer he slightly shortens his hair, but nothing in compared to those pictures. And his health is well, his blood tests are fine, and he's just doing well right now. I think he's taking a nap.
Fantastic. So, I mean, you get all these death threats, and there's this petition and stuff saying, you know, have the inspectors come round and seize Jumanji from Sonia Sae and all this stuff. And then it must have been a horrific ordeal for you to go through over absolutely nothing, over a picture of a fox with an allergy who's perfectly healthy on his plant-based diet. And what did they find? Did the inspectors ever come? What happened?
Yeah, so the police for animal protection called me, and they said they were gonna inspect my home. And so they came, and they they saw Jumanji. One of the first things that surprised the police was that he didn't look at all like the pictures,
Oh God.
and they checked all the veterinary records. They check the food that I was giving to him. They check all the ingredients and everything. Um, they call the veterinary. They check that all the papers. Thankfully, I'm a very responsible person with him, which I'm not usually. I am I'm with my things, but with him I am, and I had all these, like, all the records and everything that I always keep from the veterinary, so that was good. And yeah, they checked where was he living, if he had like toys or special things. I showed him the sand park that I have, and like pretty much everything I have for him. And the funniest thing, one of them was like, dude, this fox lives better than me. Which was pretty funny. I wish I had recorded that, but obviously
You so
I don't know. I don't think of recording the police when they come. I think that in my country it's not, I'm not sure if it's legal to record them. But anyways, so they took pictures of Jumanji, like with me holding him and everything. They made the report. I still have the report at home. And I think that now, I thought they were gonna do some sort of post or something on their website, because sometimes they do, but instead of that, if people ask them, they say, no, we already went and inspected and it was all fine.
Yeah. What do you feed Jumanji? What's his typical diet?
So even though he's a canid or a omnivore, he needs more taurine than dogs. So what I feed him is usually people who have Fennec Foxes as pets, they feed them cat kibble, and usually they put like supplements or things like that. So I feed him a plant-based kibble intended for carnivores like cats, because it has the amount of taurine that a Fennec Fox, like it's closer to the amount of taurine that a Fennec Fox needs. It's still like on the short level. So what I do is I usually do homemade cookies or treats, and I add taurine and usually a little bit of iron. And I think I have a recipe that I did a while ago on YouTube about it. And yeah, I also give him treats. He loves everything that is dried. I don't know why, but he doesn't really like juicy things. So usually sometimes I give him dehydrated fruit or dates, and he really likes it.
Well, mate, well, they're desert animals, aren't they? So it makes sense. Everything they eat is going to be dry. So, what does your vet say about Jumanji's diet?
So my vet doesn't care. Well, I mean, obviously he cares about Jumanji. So what he cares is about the results. He doesn't care about, like, he wants results. If my fox was bad on the diet, he wouldn't be okay with it. But as long as the blood test and everything is fine, he's completely fine with it. He's a very practical person, and what he wants is results. And that's what should matter,
For sure. I mean, nutrition is a numbers game, right? I mean, there's not some kind of, our body doesn't magically identify, oh, this is this and this is that. There's animal flesh doesn't have some kind of magical nutrient in it. It's about getting the right nutrients. And clearly Jumanji is getting the right nutrients. The vet is happy with his health. He has an allergy completely unrelated to his diet that he's eating. And it just goes to show all these kind of myths that have been perpetuated. And I guess, would you say the fact that so many people think Fennec Fox are carnivores rather than omnivores. Do you think that played a huge role in the hatred that you got?
Mm, not necessarily. I think that even with dogs, there's a lot of
Yeah.
prejudice against plant-based diets. I think it all comes to ignorance, and that people think that labels as carnivores, omnivores, or herbivores are like this fundamental thing that one cannot change by any means, and
Mm.
it's they all become science deniers. It's like, you know, we've beaten viruses by creating vaccines to help, and you know, animals and humans and all that, and we've developed so much, well, we've changed so much the laws of nature that you know, when you break down the tags or labels of omnivore, carnivore, and herbivore, you just come to the conclusion that they are just nutrients. They are just certain amino acids that you need to put in your body,
Yeah.
and that's what people don't understand. They don't understand that the plant-based food that Jumanji is being fed would kill a rabbit, for example.
Yeah.
It's plant-based, but it's not good for herbivores. It's good for omnivores or carnivores. And I think that's something that right now there's a huge prejudice, but we are moving slowly towards making people understand that, you know, it all comes from ignorance.
Yeah. I want to talk now specifically about the death threats and the sort of things they
Hmm.
said. Can you recall any specific death threats that really stood out to you and made you fear for your life or anything? And can you recall exactly what they said?
Yeah, there was one, like there were a few. The ones that scared me the most were the ones that said that they knew my location, and
Hmm.
they had geo-tracked me, or you know, that they found where I was living. And some of them were pretty disturbing. I remember one that said that they were gonna set my house on fire, and they were gonna kill my family and
And kill
behead me
Jumanji
and
in the
things like
process
that.
as well, which kind of defeats the whole. That is the
Yeah,
stupidest death threat I've ever heard. Because you're, starving your fox, I'm going to burn down your house and kill the very fox I claim to care about. I mean, this just
yeah.
shows the stupidity of these people.
I think that it's very ironic. It seems like a joke because all these people, none of them are vegan. I
Yeah.
mean, they're like, you know, I got insults and things like that from a few vegans, but the like main people are just not vegan. So
Yeah.
it's like, do you care? You don't really care. You just act like you care, but you you don't care about what's right and what's wrong. Like, let's say for the sake of arguing that the story was true, you know,
Yeah.
let's say that I actually would be hurting Jumanji with this diet, etc. I would have still have done it out of heart. Like, it would be bad for, like, you know, it would be a like a decision,
Yeah.
a badly thought decision, but like, I, it's not like I am one of those persons who go and steps on cats or does those disturbing things on the internet. That would be just me being an irresponsible person. Of course, you know, that
Hmm.
that would be bad, but it's
Yeah. And
it's you know, that the intention, like, I think that all the death threats and everything, like, they are not justified if you know, if the story was true, they would not, like, they would still not be justified, because, you know, I would just be like a person with a good intentions. It's doing something bad.
yeah. And it also, I mean, it just blows my mind because even if, as you were to say, let's grant their argument as true for a second, even if this was the case that you were harming Jumanji in your care by feeding him this plant based diet, you would still be less of an animal abuser and be causing umpteen million times less harm to animals than these very people who are sending you death threats and stuff, who every single
Exactly.
day are doing this to pigs and cows and chickens and sheep.
Exactly. In fact, I would still cause less harm to animals
Yeah.
because it would be one animal being unhealthy and whatever
Yeah.
versus thousands of animals that would be being killed for my fox. So it would still, like, objectively, obviously, we, I it's not something that I would do because usually you put your loved ones before others. But that would still, objectively, that would be
Hmm.
the decision that would cause less harm
Yeah.
to an like generally. So if I was a robot and I had to, like, I don't put like emotions or subjectivity, I just put numbers, statistics, etc. It would be like, okay, the best solution to not cause harm, the less harm that you cause, is still this one.
Yeah. And I wonder how many of these people have written to the dairy industry to complain about the fact that the dairy industry actually feeds cows fish meal. I mean, these people are so against animals being fed their improper diet, right? So did they realize cows are herbivores and that they're paying farmers to feed these animals fish meal, which goes surely completely against everything they stand for? I wonder if the dairy industry has even received one single letter from these people who sent you a death threat.
Yeah. Even, for example, I think that that's a great analogy. Another one is the fact that chickens are omnivores and what they are fed, and usually it's labeled as something super good if they are fed
Yeah,
an herbivore diet, if they are fed grain or grass, and they are
that's a great
omnivores.
point.
you
Yeah,
know, and
pasture-raised chickens, they eat the finest organic seed. Not a worm or a maggot in sight, just, pure, even though they're omnivores.
exactly, and no one gives a crap about it. No one cares.
Fucking hell. Now, when your family got mentioned in the death threats, people were saying they're going to kill your family and stuff. Did that for a second there, did you think that could actually happen? Did you fear for your family's safety? And did you actually discuss this with your family?
um I did have, I was a bit scared, but you know I with my family I talked a little bit, but these people, like, live in the other side of the world. So
Mm.
I, like, unless they come and take a plane to Spain and try to search my home, you know, I can fear to a certain extent, but I don't think,
Yeah.
I at least I try to think that it's not a possibility.
And did you ever consider taking action against these people, whether it be for defamation because of the clear lies that they were spreading about you, the papers and that for one,
Hmm.
or the actual death threats you received? What action did you
Yeah.
plan to take, and did you take any?
Um. I thought about it. I still think sometimes about it, but the thing is that it causes me a lot of anxiety, and I don't. I know that every time that I think about it and I go towards that thought process, I start getting like, my health is affected and
Mm.
I don't feel good about it. So I know I should, but just the whole idea and of having to go through all of this again, it really I don't know, it's not something that makes me feel good. Maybe I will, because I can do it, but um
Yeah,
it's I don't feel good about it, so
that's understandable.
I'm
Yeah.
not doing it.
Now, you obviously had this very hostile reaction from non-vegans. What was the reaction like from your fellow vegans?
So yeah, I think that was the most disappointing part, but also the most encouraging and warm, because I had like on one side the vegans who were defending me and still defend me whenever it pops up again, the story. And I had a lot of support from like a lot of vegans and the animal liberation community. But then, there's this, there weren't a lot, but there were a few vegans who were like, I'm not like the other girls of veganism, and they were like, oh my God, I am vegan, but I would never do this. I am vegan, but this is the reason why people hate me.
Oh God.
And at the end of the day, a lot of people call themselves vegan, but there is a difference between being a speciesist and being non-speciesist. And inside of veganism, you can't really tell if someone is and someone isn't. And there's these people who I think it's usually related to their own guilt, because it's people who have carnivore animals and they feed them or omnivores, and they feed them flesh of other animals. So it's like they project their own insecurities towards me, so they feel like if they attack me and I keep being the bad guy, they won't be the bad guy.
That's a very good point. I think a lot of vegans will have dogs in their care, for example, but they're very scared, even though it's perfectly possible, they're very scared to put them on a fully plant-based diet. So out of fear for their dog, they feed them, a bit of this tinned crap that you get from Pedigree Chum or whoever. And then because of that, they absolutely, I think you've got a point there, project that onto others who are successfully feeding their companion animal a plant-based diet. And it kind of makes them feel better just because they're a bit too scared to take that step for themselves. They project that feeling onto others. And I think that's a very good point. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about, because I was unable to make the vegan campout last year, but you did a speech, didn't you, at the vegan campout last year in the UK? In front of a fair few people, I'd imagine. What was the title of your speech?
How to deal with hate.
Yeah.
That was the name.
And you mentioned Jumanji's story in that speech, right?
Yeah.
And what was the reaction like there at the campout to your speech?
People were open to listen, and they were interested in my point of view, or what I had to say. It was really nice, because I went there, I wasn't expecting as many people. I was expecting, I don't know, 50 persons, not like 2,000 or 3,000.
Wow.
And they came to listen to the story, and they most of them knew about the story. And the questions were good, were genuine questions of like wanting to know about it, and real concerns, which felt really good after, I don't know, living every day with just receiving messages of people just either insulting you or asking you something that they don't really want to, like the real answer, because when you take the time to answer them, it's just a constant attack, and it's just, you provide them the evidence, you're like, no man, look, this is the fox, this is the date of today, he's perfectly fine, and they still don't want to accept it. So it was really reassuring and nice to feel that there's people listening to you, and and you don't feel alone.
Yeah, and I think it just shows how much the internet brings out the worst in people as well.
Hmm.
When you go online, you're surrounded by the most awful messages and comments that you could possibly ever imagine. And then actually, when you go to these places in real life, where there's a huge congregation of vegans, a lot more people support you and are willing to defend you than you might actually realize. But I also wanted to ask, with regards to the media attention and stuff that you got, what was the
Hmm.
furthest country whose media you knew of reported it? Because I'm in the UK, and I remember online on the Daily Mail website, girl feeds her Fennec Fox a diet that's starving him to death or something like that. It was crazy. Like, did you see anything particular
Yeah.
from afar?
I'm gonna say a few countries that I remember seeing the story going viral. I know that Russia did it.
Wow.
I know that some sort of Asian country, I'm unsure which, like the characters to which country it pertains. Perhaps it was Japan, but perhaps it wasn't. I don't know.
Mm.
I'm from Spain, so Australia for me is like super far away. So I guess that's like
The
the
furthest one.
farthest that I could have gone, I guess. And obviously the US. I think that the US was the one where it popped the biggest.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that must have been. Did you even expect that? So you get this girl who shares this stuff
Oh
around
my
about
God.
you after an argument or whatever it was on Facebook, and then what? One day you're just waking up and suddenly your face is in the paper in America and stuff.
No, no, not at all. And the thing is that, um, it's a freaking post of a girl with a weeaboo profile picture on Facebook. Like, of course, I wasn't expecting it all this. In fact, the first post that she did, she had to do it twice. The first one, it was taken down because she was using my my information, my personal information of Facebook, and
Mm.
so you can't dox people publicly on Facebook with their Facebook profile. So what she did was, she, instead of putting my Facebook, she put my Instagram. And it's weird, but if she puts my Instagram, since it's not the same platform, even though it's controlled by the same person, um, then it was okay, and it followed the community standards, and well, coming back to your question, I really wasn't expecting at all that, I was a girl with, like, I don't know, 2,000 subscribers, I guess, on YouTube, a few views, just doing my own and all of that. And people started, like, the media, of overall the media, depicted me as this super huge YouTuber
Mm.
with, I don't know, with many views. It's funny because, because of this story, I got, like, known, and I got way more subscribers and followers and all of that. But the, like, YouTube videos and the media kind of, like, they say the opposite. They say, like, as if I was, like, a huge YouTuber who,
Mm.
like, lost a lot of followers or whatever because I did this monstrous thing. And I remember watching some videos of YouTube of, like, controversial people on the internet and whatever, and they were putting me right next to Logan Paul, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just this small YouTuber.
And of all the people they
uh,
could have picked as well, it's great. Like, there's loads of vegans who feed their omnivorous animal in their care a
yeah,
plant-based diet, and it's just boom, it's just all about you, and that must have been very hard to take because so much scrutiny.
yeah.
One person, it's
The
like,
thing,
I know thousands of vegans who do this. Like, what's the deal?
yeah, I think that another huge, like, issue or whatever that people don't take in consideration over all these platforms is that I don't have the following that Logan Paul has, or the following that another person can have to feel that at least I am half supported. I don't have people who would defend me. So at the moment that I got this huge scandal, as if I was some sort of famous person, you know, when I was like just this girl on doing a few YouTube videos.
Yeah.
It was, that's, I think that what made me feel really alone and bad in the first place. It was that I didn't have support or anything to fight against, you know. I didn't have a huge channel, so I couldn't, like, even if I defended myself, it couldn't reach too many people, and because I didn't have a big platform. So it was like the damage is done, you know, the story is out, and just the few people who were actually interested to see more were the ones that went to my pages and checked, you know, instead of just leaving a hate comment. And I did get some really nice comments of people who were like, I came really upset and ready to I don't know, you know, to spread my hate against you, and then I checked and I realized that, you know, it was all made up.
Yeah.
So those were comforting comments, to be honest.
Yeah. I want to talk now about the quite a big debate that's on a lot of people's minds in the animal rights movement, and that's the subject of cats, because cats
Hmm.
are carnivores 100%. They're not omnivores.
Hmm.
But there are absolutely cases of people, of vegans, who are feeding their cats a fully plant-based diet. I just want to get what your thoughts are on feeding cats a fully plant-based diet, and how, you know, whether you think it's scientifically plausible or you think it's a bad idea. What do you think?
I think it's awesome. It's thanks to the scientific revolution, we have the option to feed carnivore animals without having to kill others. And if it's possible, why not? Um, I don't understand why there's so many people who are reticent to this, but it's it's great to not have to pay to kill animals. And as we said earlier, um, carnivore is just a label. It's certain amount of amino acids that you need, and as long as they can be met, why would anyone prefer to kill others?
Yeah. The thing with cats that my opinion on this whole cat thing is, yes, it absolutely can be done, but it needs to be done very carefully. And I do know of people who have fed their cat a plant-based diet and it didn't go right. The cat developed urinary crystals, for example. But from my understanding, this is a thing with male cats more often than female cats. I think, from what I understand, female cats are easier to put on a plant-based diet so long as you're giving them all the right nutrients they would get, all the taurine and all that kind of stuff. But male cats are more prone to developing things like urinary tract infections and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's this case of you know, things like pH strips to check their urine and stuff from time to time. But I can definitely understand why people would be hesitant to put their cat on a plant-based diet with these like stories you do hear. Like, what do you say to in the cases of people who have said, look, I tried to put my cat on a plant-based diet, but it didn't go right?
Yeah, first of all, it's always very important to check with your veterinary and to make sure that your cat has all the needs and the pH levels right. People like cats who have urinary tract issues, they had already like those, they were already prone before the plant-based diet, and there are options. If you really want to, there are options. There's I actually bought this at first because I thought that the pH levels of Jumanji could be bad too. Like I
Mm.
was afraid. In the end, like in the blood test and in everything, it was like the pH was always good, so it I stopped putting it. But there's what's the name? Well, there's this supplementation that you can feed um cats to
Amicat, is it?
regulate the pH levels. No, there's a supplementation called, I have it in my pet food video. I think it's
Yeah.
called Veggie, it's from Vegicat or something like that.
Yeah.
And it helps to keep the urinary levels fine for your cat and into more acidic,
Yeah.
to not form crystals. And that's the thing is, of course, you can have the intention of wanting to feed your cat a plant-based diet, but you have to do it well. It's
Yeah.
like if I didn't take the responsibility, didn't check well, Jumanji, I would be an irresponsible owner. So I think what it matters is to do it well and to check everything and to pay attention to it.
Because one thing I know a lot of people say who say that, vegans should not be feeding their cat a plant-based diet is they say that's, this isn't a cat's natural diet. I guess my response to that would be there's no such thing as a cat's natural diet. A household cat is not a natural animal. They're essentially a human-made animal. They're a creation. The domesticated cat is a creation. Nothing you feed a domesticated cat is natural at all. I mean, if you were to truly, give them the natural diet, it would just be let them to go out and kill birds and stuff. But like when you give them tinned cat foods and stuff like that, I mean, a tabby cat doesn't hunt pigs or cows. They can't swim. When you feed your cat a fish, that's not natural. Like cats don't swim, so or can have any kind of fishing ability at all. So it's like
or a tuna that is like I don't know, 10 times the size of a cat. I don't think that the cat would go deep in the ocean and hunt tuna. But the thing is that there's this romantic idea of what it's natural, as if it was like some sort of religious sect of people who think that natural is like as if it was the point, the top best thing in the world. The lifespan of animals in nature is way shorter than their domestic animal in under humans' care. Vaccines are not natural. Medicine is not natural. It's the opposite of natural, and yet it prolongs the life of those who take them. The same with with the food. The food depends if you do it right or wrong, but natural doesn't mean good necessarily or best.
No, absolutely, and that's the thing carnists always say is they have this idea of nature and natural, and it's another. When you talked about medications and stuff a moment ago, that actually kind of reminded me. If carnists want what's so-called natural, and they hate anything to do with science intervening and stopping things that would happen in nature, then every time they're on their deathbed, you should just say to them circle of life or something. By that logic, that would be okay, and don't take this medication. So I mean, we've talked now about cats. So cats are a carnivorous animal. However, from what we have seen, both you and I could say that for sure. We have seen cases of people successfully feeding their cats a plant-based diet. It just has to be carefully planned. Would you accept that there are some animals currently in people's care that absolutely cannot be fed a plant-based diet? We just do not have the means to do it. Like in my opinion, this would be like snakes. There are insectivores like tarantulas and stuff like that. Do you think we have a way, or would you agree with me that there just currently isn't a way?
I think that where there's a will, there's a way. No vegans are happy at having to feed other animals. That's why their emotional response is always anger, and anger comes from frustration. I understand that if you have a certain animal that you do not possess the knowledge or tools to make them plant-based, you feel in this trapped, I guess, way where you have, if you have a snake or a tarantula or any animal like that, and you feel like, okay, I love this animal, I don't want this animal to die, yet I feel as a vegan, or as a person who cares about animals, I don't feel comfortable, but I do have to do it to feed this animal. And I know one person, obviously this person remains very secret, because that's not something that people would accept, just like my fox. But imagine a snake. I know a person who successfully has a plant-based snake.
What?
Yes. The thing is that it's not pretty in the terms of you don't make the snake go and eat the thing.
Yeah.
I know that the person, what the person does is they make sure that they have all the nutrients that the snake needs, and they feed the snake with what's the name? Not inject, like
Like a
with a
tablet or something?
needle, like a needle to his mouth, but
Yeah.
not
Oh, a
injecting.
syringe kind of thing. They drop it in the.
Yeah, that was the name,
Yeah, yeah.
syringe. And the snake has been like the snake is good, is healthy, and has been eating like that for years. It's not good. I don't know, I think it's a lesser evil, the less of the bad options. And obviously I
Yeah.
don't think it's, you know these animals shouldn't be um in a house, just like my fox.
Yeah.
They should have been born in nature. But when you have this scenario, which is these animals who have been born in captivity and they can't go in the wild and everything, then you have to take care of them, and sometimes you have to choose the lesser evil, the less
Yeah.
of two bad things.
And even going back to the natural thing, it's still not a snake being kept in a tank. For a start, that's unnatural. But then feeding them mice who were killed by humans via snapping
Yeah,
their necks or gassing them or whatever it was, that's as unnatural as hell as well. So it still goes, this fallacy of natural. It's still always wrong, regardless of what you're feeding some kind of animal who's in your care. But I was going to
right.
say, like, it seemed like, so this person seems to have found a way to do it. For most people,
Yeah,
they have no idea how this can be done. And it seems the only sort of, I think there's kind of like four options that you can have if you have no idea what to do. Basically the four options there are, if you have a carnivorous or insectivorous animal in your care, is you either continue to feed them the murdered animals, thus you're continuing to fund animal murder. You kill the animal so that no animals need to die for them, thus you actually murdered the animal in your care. You release them into the wild, which is not only illegal and dangerous for the animal who's in your care, but it's also dangerous for wild animals in that area. It completely like messes up that ecosystem. Or you give them away to someone else to care for, which results in them continuing to pay for animal murder anyway. So there's just no difference between you doing it. So it's like this massive catch-22 for anyone who's got like a tarantula or a snake or a gecko or something like that in their care. Um, it just seems the options are so, there's no way to do this like from a
there's
vegan
no
perspective.
there's no happy ending.
Yeah,
um I think that, whenever I have to take a decision that involves morality, I always imagine if it was, a human, to know if I'm being speciesist or not. If you had a kid under your care that could only survive by having to eat like something inside other kids, would you kill the rest of their I don't know, kindergarten
yeah,
class to keep your kid alive? That really depends on the person. There's some people who would be like, yeah, I would kill like 50 kids a day if I could keep my kid alive. And there's other people who'd be like, nope, you know. So it's a tough decision.
yeah.
um
For sure, though.
Personally, I wouldn't have an animal if and today, as of today, I wouldn't have an animal that if this animal
Yeah.
involves having to kill other animals.
I agree. I know it's so easy for me and you because people just they might come up to us and say, Sonia, George, like, what do you suggest vegans do, about with carnivorous animals and stuff? And my answer every time is just don't adopt a carnivorous animal, because you're faced with these horrible, horrible situations. But unfortunately for some people, they already have these carnivorous animals in their
Yeah.
care. And my answer is, those 4 scenarios I gave you a moment ago, which are all shit. Um, I mean, it could be a case of we just have to work on ways to. You did say earlier, where there's a will, there's a way. I'm very sure that as we hopefully progress to a more ethical world, well, not only should animals no longer being bred into captivity anyway, but for as long as they are, I hope that there are viable solutions on the market to buying, for scientifically formulated foods
Yeah.
that do not contain dead animals, but that perfectly match the nutrient profile of everything that carnivorous animals need, be it the acidity level, the amino
I
acids,
think,
and all that stuff.
yeah, I think that as we shift to a vegan world, these things will be available. Obviously, in a vegan world, we will not have pets,
Mm,
but I think that as we shift, there's gonna be more and more options available. I don't know when vegan pet food for dogs and cats that keep commercially available started appearing, but I don't think it was, that long ago. And now it's super easy. You can find it in Amazon and order it to your home. You don't even have to go out home. So as we progress, and people, there's someone who um, puts effort into finding a solution to that, we're gonna have more available options.
yeah. All right. I'll ask you one question just before we end, then we'll wrap up this episode. So I'll just ask you, Sonia, what would you say to someone, Sonia, who has a carnivorous animal in their care right now, and they say, I've got like a snake or a scorpion, or what do scorpions eat? I don't even know what they eat. They're insectivores, right? I've got a snake or a scorpion or something like that in my care. What should I do? And I don't have this magical solution that you mentioned your friend has. So what do you suggest I do?
um I can say what I would suggest.
Yeah.
No, I think that I'm not one to tell what other people should do. I know what I would do. If I had a carnivorous animal that I had to feed them obligately other animals daily, I wouldn't have this animal. And not
Yeah.
having them, it's either I know that I'm gonna get hate for this, but it's either putting down the animal, which is going to be the lesser evil, or releasing the animal in the wild. And it's not a pretty story. This is not a Disney a story that has a happy ending. This is the lesser evils. And if you think about it objectively and logically, I think those are the best options for the rest of the animals that want to live as much as that animal.
Yeah. So it basically sucks no matter what you do, which is I guess the thing I was saying a moment ago. And yeah, I guess the only advice we can give to vegans who have a carnivorous animal in their care, who they're pretty sure they cannot successfully feed a plant-based diet, is just research, 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 research. But I should tell everyone listening to this, neither myself nor Sonia are vets or medical professionals. So it's down to absolutely everyone to research and do the responsible thing. But yeah, thanks so much for joining, Sonia. It's been
Yeah.
really great to have you. Thanks so much to have you here on the debut episode.
Um, I want to point out though
Sure, go on.
that would, like, my response is that would be in the ultimate case that you had no other single option.
Yeah.
But as I said before, where there's a will, there's a way. And I would, if I had any of those animals in my under my care, what I would try to do is find a way, try to find it, to find a solution to try to not, you know, to successfully feed them a plant-based diet.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sonia. And for everyone who's enjoyed that
Thank
listening,
you.
you can tune in next time. I've got some more interesting guests and stuff coming up that I will announce soon. If you want to support the Carnism Debunked podcast or any of my work, head to patreon.com/Carnism Debunked. Thank you all for listening, and any questions, just pop them in the comment section of the YouTube or the Facebook. Thanks, everyone.